Hello and welcome to Eye on Africa. I'm Rochelle Ferguson-Biahi. These are the top stories on the continent. African heads of state joined world leaders in Paris on the second anniversary of the city's climate accord. It comes ahead of Wednesday's G5 summit when African, European and Arab leaders will talk counter-terrorism in the Sahel region. Amnesty International accuses EU leaders of being complicit in the torture of migrants and refugees in Libya. We speak to Amnesty's Hebe Moreya for details on a report published by the rights group. And with beauty, one of Nigeria's fastest growing industries, we meet a female entrepreneur who's literally giving the sector a makeover, this using only organic, locally sourced ingredients. But first to our top story. African heads of state joined world leaders in descending on the French capital today for the second anniversary of the Paris Climate Accord. Mali's President Keïta, Chad's President Déby and Mauritania's leader Ould Abdelaziz were among those who attended the One Planet Summit, which is aimed at reducing poorer countries' carbon footprint. Well, their visit comes ahead of a G5 summit here in Paris on Wednesday, when tackling terror in the Sahel will top the agenda. Sharon Gaffney has more in this report.
French forces launched Operation Serval in northern Mali in January 2013, following a military coup and after jihadists had seized control of large swathes of the landlocked West African nation and former French colony. The insurgency, made up of local rebels and the North African branch of Al-Qaeda, was pushed back and a UN-sponsored ceasefire was agreed in 2015. But the Malian government has been unable to retake several areas which remain under the control of armed fighters. The jihadist threat has also spread to other parts of the Sahel region. In a bid to improve cooperation on security across the 5 nations, African leaders have set up an organisation called the G5 Sahel. It now has its own UN-backed counter-terror force, which was formally launched in Mali last July to fight armed groups and combat terrorism. It will eventually consist of 5,000 troops and is due to be operational by mid-2018 at an annual cost of hundreds of millions of euros. While funding the force is the responsibility of the G5 nations, the UN has encouraged other countries to donate. Saudi Arabia has pledged 85 million euros, while the US and EU are providing at least 50 million each. France says it will contribute an additional 8 million euros. 4,000 French troops are still deployed in the Sahel region. President Emmanuel Macron is hoping the force will soon be in a position to take over the fight against jihadists.
The UN has warned that more than 400,000 children in DR Congo are severely malnourished and could die within months without emergency assistance. The humanitarian crisis is affecting the vast Kasai region. 18 months of violence coupled with mass displacement and a slump in agriculture has had a devastating impact on children. UNICEF estimates that more than 200 health centres have also been destroyed in the unrest. Christophe Bollerac is the spokesman for UNICEF.
More than 750,000 children across the region are acutely malnourished. So the 400,000 who are at risk of dying are the ones who are suffering from severe acute malnutrition. And 25 health zones in the Kasai region are now in a situation of nutritional crisis with emergency thresholds on nutrition exceeded.
Amnesty International has alleged that European governments are complicit in the torture of tens of thousands of migrants and refugees in Libya. In a new report, Amnesty accuses the Libyan Coast Guard of working with criminal gangs and militia with the knowledge of EU leaders. The rights group also said that mass and arbitrary detentions have become more commonplace in Libya as a way of stemming the flow of migration. Well, to tell us more, Hebe Moreya from Amnesty International joins us from Tunisia. Ms. Moreya, thanks for speaking to France 24. Walk us through, if you will, how EU leaders are complicit in this abuse of migrants and refugees.
Well, in this report, Amnesty International wanted to clarify that European governments are fully aware of the abuses that are happening in Libya today, especially in detention centres. Of course, these abuses have been happening over the last few years. been quite exacerbated in the last year in particular. The reason we are making this finding that European governments are actually complicit in the abuses that are taking place is because, first of all, European governments are providing assistance to DCIM detention centers. These are the official detention centers run by the Libyan authorities where migrants, refugees, and asylum seekers are detained. Secondly, they're providing assistance and in some cases even patrol boats, sometimes by the Italian government, to the Libyan Coast Guard, and trying overall to scale up the operations of the Libyan Coast Guard, which then result in more migrants being taken back to Libya and held in detention. And thirdly, the recent agreements between the Italian government in particular and the Libyan authorities, which, based on the Memorandum of Understanding, which here again, the entire goal of that agreement is to keep migrants, refugees, and asylum seekers trapped in Libya.
You say once they are in these detention centres, there is torture happening there as well.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, in a sense, some of the outrage, the international outrage that we heard over the last few weeks after that video emerged about the treatment in detention centres or the sale of migrants is somewhat disingenuous. Because the fact that migrants, asylum seekers and refugees are tortured in DCIM detention centres has been the case for years. What we've documented in this report that I think perhaps provides an extra layer is the exploitation that migrants are subjected to. So ultimately, DCIM guards will often torture migrants in order to force them to get their families to pay a ransom for their release. They will call up family members and torture the relative while the family member is on the phone to increase the price. So in a sense, everybody's making money off the misery of migrants, refugees, and asylum seekers, and European governments are protecting that system.
OK, Heba Morea from Amnesty International. That's all we've got time for, I'm afraid. Thank you, though, for your time this evening on Eye on Africa. Liberia's Electoral Commission has set December 26 as the official date for a presidential runoff poll. Ex-football star George Weah will go head-to-head with Vice President Joseph Boakai. Now, the vote was delayed for several weeks owing to a court challenge by Charles Brumskin, a candidate who came third in round one. Well, campaigning will kick off immediately and must end by December 24th. The winner will replace Ellen Johnson Sirleaf as president. Now, Nigeria's burgeoning beauty sector means that the people making the products need to be ever more innovative. One female entrepreneur has been literally giving the industry a makeover using organic, locally sourced skincare products. France 24's Clement Bonnereau has this report.
Giving Nigeria's beauty industry a much-needed facelift. Oluwaseun started making her own natural soap for her children a few years ago. Last year, after much success, she went on to start a business. She now runs a company that manufactures a range of natural beauty products, from dessert-inspired soap to body butter and homemade hair oil.
A lot of people don't take you seriously at first because you're a woman. A lot of people say, oh, I mean, it's just something, you know, like a hobby, she'll get over it. A lot of women have actually supported me. Like 100% of the brands that do business with me are women. 100% of people that train with me are women.
Oluwaseun's products are packaged under other skincare brand names and sold to thousands of clients across the country. They're made using mostly organic, locally sourced ingredients, including coconut oil and cocoa powder. Oluwaseun is not only a businesswoman, she also trains other aspiring beauty entrepreneurs, enabling them to take advantage of the increasing demand for natural beauty products. This woman, Inia, is one of them. She now sells her own lip balm, body butter and soap.
A lot of people like to keep their business or trade secrets to themselves, but you need to realize that we need to empower each other. With the few people I've come across, for example, Soap NG, she's confident in herself as a woman.
The beauty industry is among the fastest growing sectors in Nigeria. It was valued at €530 million in 2016.
The Eye on Africa team is back in 45 minutes' time. Join us then. Up next, more international headlines. Stay tuned. You're watching France 24.